One rolling, camera 2 rolling, sound speed. All right, let's just get it all out in the open. Let's just get it right all the way out in the open. If there was a black person, a brown person, a Middle Eastern person, a Latino person, an indigenous person, every single last one of them, man, woman, or child, would have been shot on site immediately. End of story. Good night.
So here's the thing with Marc, Shem, and E.
What's going on, everybody? Marc Samuels here from So Here's the Thing podcast on Killing Noir Pictures. Happy New Year.
It's been labelled an assault on liberty and one of the darkest moments in recent American history.
COVID numbers have been steadily rising to the point where they are initiating curfews, including places here like my home province of Ontario, Canada. Elon Musk has replaced Jeff Bezos as the richest person on the planet, and he plans on creating a space program in which people who can't afford to travel to Mars can work as indentured servants until they can pay off their debt.
That just sounds like slavery with extra steps.
Oh, apparently Kanye West might be gay or something. I don't know. I guess he's getting a divorce. It doesn't really matter. None of that even cracked the top 10 news subjects of the first week of 2021 because we got to deal with this bull.
And unleashed. The marauding mob was unstoppable. Too much for brittle police ranks to hold the line.
On January 6th, 2021, a group of hundreds of armed white supremacist terrorists breached the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., broke in, vandalized, looted, stole, and walked away. Let's talk about how people sat there identifying themselves on camera and zero arrests were made. Zero arrests. How is that even possible? Sorry, I'm not. But I'm not going to get angry. I'm not going to get angry because I have been saying this from time and I'll continue to say this until I die. We are on our own. They are not here to protect us. Let's talk about the fact that that exact same white mob that was yelling out Blue Lives Matter were sitting there beating on blue lives the entire time and nobody arrested them. So hold up. Wait, when did blue lives exactly stop mattering? Because I'm a little confused. I don't care. I don't even care. I don't even care. Why? I don't even care. I don't think that I have the brain capacity to even begin to unpack how it is that we've gotten there. But I have some theories. The number one unchecked terrorist organization holding the heavyweight champion title of all time has been white supremacy. It has always been white supremacy. It was the Civil War, it was the Reconstructionist era, it was the Civil Rights era, and it's now. I would like to, at absolute best, not turn this into a partisan argument, as I have made very clear on So Here's the Thing podcast. I'm not a huge fan of left or right or Democrat or Republican or liberals or conservatives. I think that everybody is wrong. I think that everybody has had it wrong for a very long time. But that said, one side is definitely winning at terrorism right now. I'm struggling right now to find out how it is that a armed to the teeth group of, let's stop calling them a militia, a group of terrorists can walk into a Capitol building and walk away. Now, I'm not going to sit here and have this conversation about what this would look like if it was POCs or if it was black people or if it was Latino people or, God forbid, if it was people of Middle Eastern descent, because we already know what that would look like. We sat for an entire year, 2020 being the year that it was, and we sat and watched. As the year progressed, police became more and more militant to the point where they had tanks. All right. They brought in the National Guard for protesters. And when I say protesters, I do mean protesters. Studies have shown that protesting that happened in the United States that was linked to Black Lives Matter was at least 90% peaceful, which means that throughout every single state in the United States, if there was one or two incidents, you would see that on the news. But what you wouldn't see is all the women, children, and men that were holding it down, making sure that there was nothing that they can do that would call for a militarized resistance. And yet, we sat there and watched on television as our brothers and sisters were met with police officers that were armed to the teeth, that had riot gear on, that had tanks and pepper spray and rubber bullets and sometimes real bullets and sometimes unmarked vans where they would kidnap people, throw them in the back of the car, and you wouldn't see them for days. They beat women. That shows us everything that we need to know about this situation. But the question is not about pointing fingers, not about making it into a race war, as much as I do believe that there are a lot of elements of that at play. The question really comes down to this. How long are we going to let people make an absolute mockery of our democracy? How long are we going to allow people who are crying about an election that they lost decide what is going to happen with our entire country? And how long is it before you realize that people who you do not consider a threat are the ones who are actually threatening our nation? Here's a story. November 10th, 1898, just after an election day, white supremacists overthrew the city government of Wilmington, North Carolina. They forced the resignation of a mayor, an alderman, and the chief of police. That white mob, they burned down an office of an African-American newspaper, killed what is known to be hundreds of black people, and changed the course of an election because they didn't agree. They believed that if they had lost this fair and legal election, there had to have been some sort of foul play. And because of that, they murdered hundreds of people. And the government, instead of rounding up these people and dealing with them how they dealt with every other traitor in the country, which is either by hanging them or shooting them, they let them get away with it. The entire history of the country changed because a mob of white people willed it into existence. Somehow that doesn't sound all that different than the events of just a few days ago. Those people who came in and mobbed up and busted into a Capitol building, they did so because the entire government and the police force were completely complicit. There are videos of police taking selfies with the terrorists. There are videos of police officers helping the terrorists get into the building. There are videos of the police officers helping the women up and down the stairs of the mob that is trying to break into their building. And even right now, as we speak, there are literal government officials. Not only were there government officials who are siding with them, but there are government officials that were caught there as a part of the mob. I'm not kidding. People who are involved in making the decisions for you and me. This is what they're doing when they get upset. This is what they do when they feel like a line has been crossed. So my question is, if that line has been crossed, how long before we push them back? Make you no mistake, there is going to be a reckoning. There is going to be a part two. There is going to be consequences to these actions. And if left unchecked, we are going to be on the wrong side of those consequences. Or are we going to do exactly what we did back in the 1800s? Are we going to allow the perception of civility to dictate what happens to our people, even if it's by force? Now, a lot of people are probably wondering, well, Mark, you have been very much been on the side of protesters and civil disobedience. I am. I still am. I think that civil disobedience is absolutely necessary in order to make sure that people who are underrepresented get what they need to get out of government, especially when that government chooses not to listen to them. The difference is that there's a huge blinding difference between marginalized people and people who feel like they're not getting what they want. You understand? I think that there is a huge difference between a black person standing in the middle of Washington, D.C. with a sign that says, "Please stop shooting our children," and a person who is saying that they just don't agree with the results of an election. Hey, man, I'm all here for civil disobedience. I am here for it. But what I am not here for is a bunch of spoiled brats running into a Capitol building with bombs, making demands, and there being no repercussions. I think that's a fair assessment. Now, we're going to have to dive into this in so many different ways, and we'll get to all of it. But in the meantime, what I want everybody to do is I want you guys to sit there and I want you to really think about where it is that you feel like this country is going. And when I say country, I mean Canada and America as well. This coup was organized by the Proud Boys. The Proud Boys is a white nationalist organization, a terrorist organization that has its origins in Canada. Every single time I see Canadians acting smug about any horrific event that happens in the United States, I feel it's my duty to remind them everything that happens in the United States of America echoes and reverberates to the other countries that it influences. And that means Canada as well. This is our fight just as much as it's the United States' fight. And we need to make sure that we are being vigilant. We are watching, if not the fall of a civilization, then definitely the transition of a civilization. It takes so very little to change into a fascist state. And if that doesn't scare you, you're not paying attention. This is a sobering picture of what it is that we actually are. And that is so fragile that we are this close from losing every version of what we imagined our society to be. And if we don't fight for it, we're never going to get it back. I need you to understand that we are never going to get it back. It's up to us now. We have to progress. We have to move forward. We have to create a society that works for all of us. And when I say all of us, I don't mean white supremacists, because I cannot stress this enough. There is no unity with white supremacy. There is no unity. I don't want to reach across the aisle to terrorists. I want something for us, the people, the ones who believe in due process, the ones who believe in democracy of any kind. Joe Biden said on Twitter that this isn't us. And I'm here to say that this is more us than anything else that we've gone through in the last 5 years. This is more us than anything that we've gone through in the last decade. This is more us than anything that we've gone through in my lifetime. This is us. This is what we look like. And if we don't take a long, hard look in the mirror and see the ugly that's reflected back, this is always going to be us. It is really good to be back on the airwaves with you guys. So here's the thing, obviously, as with everything else, is having to adjust to this very, very strange time where, COVID and this pandemic is sweeping the entire nation, and we're all forced to adjust just like everybody else. So we are going to be doing things a little bit differently. There's going to be a lot more solo videos between myself and E, and hopefully Shen as well. We also have a newcomer that is going to be joining us on the show. When it is safe for all of us to get together, then we'll have plenty of time to celebrate that. And I do want to say that I really hope that all of this news and horrific events that we're all having to sit here and live through doesn't put a damper on the fact that we made it through one of the scariest years in recent memory. And we all did that together. So let's make sure that we all pull together in order to make it through another one. I'm Marc Samuels. This is So Here's the Thing podcast, and I can't wait to talk to you guys soon. Peace.